Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about stem and leaf plot and line plot, and you're going to get an opportunity to work it out as well. So we're going to be collecting and representing numerical data, including fractional values, using tables, stem and leaf plot, or line plot. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, in order to understand what a stem and leaf plot and line plot is, let's go ahead and take a look at all of the data we have provided from the stem and leaf plot. So if you take a look at this stem and leaf plot, the left-hand side of what is called the stem is the tens place value, and the leaf, which is the right-hand side, is the ones place value. Well, how do I know that? If I take a look at the key, you have the number 3, and you have the divider, and then you have 8. And then that equals 38. So what does that mean? Well, you have the number 3 here, and then you have the divider, and then you have the 0. So in this case, you have the number 30, so 30. And then you continue. So you have the number 3, and you have the number 3, you put them together, that would be the number 33. So it's really important to understand that the stem, even though it is one time, it still repeats itself. It's not going to be laid out like the leaf, but it does repeat itself. So let's go ahead and take a look at the numerical data. Alright, so now that we have our numerical data organized, we're going to go ahead and create a line plot. So when we're talking about creating a line plot, it's really important for us to understand that we need to determine the place value of the tens place to be able to break it apart by its place value. Now, one thing that I want to note is that usually with number lines, right, we start at 0. But in this case, because our numerical data set does not start at 0, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting it at the numerical data that it starts at. In this case, it starts at 30. So for this number line, we are going to skip count by 30, and then we are going to go ahead and plot our numerical data information, which then makes it a line plot. That's why it's called a line plot. So let's go ahead and get started with the number 30 first. So let me go ahead and click here on my writing tool, and let's get started. So right here, we're going to put the number 30. We're going to write 30. Let's erase that and make it a better 0. So we're going to write 30 there. And then about here, we're going to go ahead and put 40. Write 40 there. And then about here, we're going to do 50. Let's write 50 here. And then about here, we're going to do 60. Let's write 60 here. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at all the numbers we have. So we know we have 30, we have 33, 34, 35, 41, 41, and so on. So what we're going to do is break this into increments of 10 parts. So let's see, we have our 30 here. We know that our 35, right, is right in the middle. So let's write our 35 down. And then let's write 45 down as well. So we have our 45. And then we have our 55 about here, so we're going to write our 55. And then we're going to write our 65 here. Right, so now let's go ahead and start plotting in our ones. So we have 31 here, 32 here, 33 here, 34 here, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and then we have 40, and we're going to continue doing that. So 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, and finally our last one would be 70. So let's write 70 down. All right, so now that we have all of our data inputted, what we're going to do is we are going to now plot, right, all of our numerical data. Well, how do we do that? Well, according to a line plot, what we do is take a look at the number. In this case, let's go ahead and take a look at the lesser value or the lowest value, which is 30. And what we do is we put a dot right above that number. So I'm going to take the black pen just so you're able to see it. And then we're going to go ahead and shade in right there a dot for 30, and then we cross it out. And then we do the same thing for 33. Now this can be a dot or an X. I want you guys to understand that, because sometimes people are like, no, it's just a dot. No, it can be a dot or an X. So let's go ahead and put 33. So we have 31, 32, 33. So we're going to go ahead and do a little dot at 33. And then we're going to continue to do that. So we're looking for 34, 31, 32, 33, 34. And we're looking for 35. So 35 is right here. We're looking for, we have two 41s in this case. So how many dots do you think we're going to do? Because we have two 41s. Pause the video, think about it, and go ahead and let me know. If you said 2, you are correct. So let's take a look. We have 40 here, 41. So we're going to do not one dot, we're going to do 2 dots for the representation of 2. 2 dots just mean that 41 repeats itself 2 times. So let's take a look at the next one. We have 45. So we have 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. So we're going to go ahead and put right there, 45. Then we have 56. So we have 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, right? And then 56. So let's count one more time. 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56 is right there. Then we have 57, so 56. 57 is right next to it, right? We just add one more. Then we have 68, so this is 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68. And then we have two 69s. So again, how many dots do you think we're going to have to do? If you said 2, you are correct. So we're at 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. We need 2 dots above 69. So let's go ahead and do 2 dots above 69. And that is how you do a stem and leaf plot and a line plot. Now this is just a reminder that with a stem and leaf plot, you have to take a look at the key. I think that's the most important thing about the stem and leaf plot, is looking at the key itself, because if you don't look at the key, you're going to be very confused. So again, keep in mind that this tells you how to compose the number. Now this can be a number, this can be a decimal, so it doesn't matter. It might be different, but you just have to understand that in this case, the key said that we're putting our tens place and our ones place together to create that number 38. But sometimes it could be different. The separation might mean that I need to put a decimal, or the separation might mean that there's going to be a fraction next to it and I put a mixed number, right? So I would put a whole number and a fraction. You just have to know the difference by looking at that key. That's the very most important thing. So now that we spoke about how to look at a stem and leaf plot and how to create numerical data, I would like for you to give it a try. So go ahead and pause this video and try to give it a try and see if you're able to compose this. Now, one thing I do want to hint at is for you to take a look at the key. So if you take a look at the key here, you have the whole number, the separation, and then the fraction, which then is equal to a mixed number. Now, I do want you to note that there is a 3 and a 0. That can be confusing because in our previous video, we were working with place value, and we were working with the ones place and the tens place. But in this case, that's not what it is. In this case, it just tells you that the whole number is 3 and there is no fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and show you an example of the numerical data so you can take a look at it. So how would I do this? So it's very simple. You take a look at your stem. Your stem is 3. In this case, that is what we call your whole number. So we're going to go ahead and write the number 3 here. and then you take a look at your leaf. Your leaf is a 0. What that means is that there is no fraction. You're not writing a 0 next to this. What you're doing is you're writing no fraction. So what does that mean? There is no fraction here, so I'm just going to put a comma. Then I take a look at the 3 again, and I'm going to write the 3 again, right? And then, do you see this? Now it's a 1/4. So what does that mean? That means that this is going to be a mixed number. What is a mixed number? A mixed number is a whole number and a fraction. So this is going to have 1/4, right? So that's my next data set. So go ahead and pause the video and keep going. Now go ahead and review with your teacher and determine if the same thing that you have is what your teacher put on the board. Alright, so we have been working really hard on stem and leaf plot and line plot. So what we're going to be looking at now is stem and leaf plot, but with decimals. So take a look at the key here. Now it's slightly different. It's changed again. Before, on our first slide, we were working with whole numbers, and we were working with a tens place value and ones. The slide before that, we were working with mixed numbers, so we had a whole number and a fraction. And now in this case, we are working with decimals. How do I know? Because of the key. So take a look here. The stem here has 2 digits. There is a part, and then there's a 2. So if you take a look here, when the numbers are parted, right? So when we have that dividing part, what it's telling you now is that you need to put a decimal. So what does that mean? So I'm going to take a look at the stem here, which is 38. And I'm going to go ahead and write number 38 down. So let's go ahead and write 38 here. Now there is a separation here. So what that's telling you now is that you need to put a decimal point and then a 0. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to put a decimal point right here. And then I'm going to put a 0. And then I'm going to continue with my data set. So go ahead and pause the video and try it. Try it yourself. Now that you've tried it, go ahead and work it out with your teacher on the board and see if the same numerical data as well as plotting it on the line plot is the same as your work. Now that we've gotten to practice with whole numbers, now that we've gotten to practice with mixed numbers and decimals, now what I want you to do is partner up with someone and create your own stem and leaf plot and create your own numerical data as well as plot it on the line plot. So go ahead and give it a try and see what you get. Thank you so much for working with me. It was great. Thank you for working with Miss Legrand in Legrand Classroom. If you have not checked out my Teachers Pay Teachers in resources in Legrand Classroom, I would encourage you to check it out. Have a great day, and thank you for working with me in stem and leaf plot and line plot.